Bear with me 1 second, y'all. Get this class started real soon, real soon. I think that was me. Bear with me 1 sec. I think I got things flowing right now. There's always something with these devils, man. I'm telling you. Always something with these dudes, man. If it ain't one thing, it's another, man. But shalom, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah Barak Thud to all my brothers, Yahweh Shemar Thud Hashem, Yahweh Shah to all my sisters. This is the ISUPK, the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, currently under Commandant General Yohana. And what we do is we teach the Black, Hispanic, and Native their true history according to the Bible. We teach them what their position is in that Bible, and that position is God's chosen people. We are God's chosen people according to the scriptures. And we're going to get into some history of America's bloodlust, America's lust to destroy the Black, Hispanic, and Native people. That's what we're going to get into, because America has this bloodlust to hunt us down and murder us and hang us and burn us unjustly. We're going to get into this history book right here, 100 Years of Lynching. It's a good read. I suggest you get it. You know what I'm saying? It got some good artifacts. I got a PDF. I'm going to be going through a few things today. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to leave the class open to any questions. If you have any questions, please type them into the class. Any questions at all, type them on in. You know what I'm saying? Give y'all a few minutes to think of that. And please don't forget to follow us on Facebook under ISUPK Boston. Find us on YouTube under Boston No Cowards. Please find us on YouTube, subscribe. And also find us on Twitter, ISUPK Boston on Twitter. And you can see us on TikTok, Instagram, and other social networks too. Just put ISUPK Boston. We will pop up. You know what I'm saying? We will pop up. But with that being said, we're going to get into some good read, all right? For those who don't have the book, we're going to get into some few historical moments and some news articles of historic hatred that our oppressor has for our people. And why are we doing a class like this? It's important for us to do a class like this so y'all can understand that we are too attached to them right now. We seem to want to be a part of their society. And all they want for us is to kill us. We're not openly invited into their society unless they can get something and gain something from us. So we're going to get into it a bit. We'll get into some few historical things. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how well y'all can see this. But let's go into some smaller articles real quick. Let's start off with some smaller ones. This is written in the New York Truth Seeker in April 17th, 1880. 1880. That's a long time ago. In 1880, let me read it. First Negro at West Point knifed by fellow cadets. Do y'all know what West Point is? Let me tell you what West Point is, all right? Let me tell you what West Point is. West Point is a military training ground. And this is a black man who entered the military. Now, let me tell you something. The military ain't meant for no black, Hispanic, or Native person. Treatment like this happens all the time. Look at that sister, Vanessa Gilliam. You know what I'm saying? There's sisters being raped, murdered, and all types of things. There's brothers being murdered, probably raped too. Because it does have a jail mentality in the military also. The military is not a place for black, Hispanic, or Native people. And this is why. James Webster Smith, the first colored cadet in the history of West Point, was recently taken from his bed. He was recently taken from his bed. You know what I'm saying? Gagged, bound, and severely beaten. And then his ears were slit. He says that he cannot identify his assailants. This brother could not identify his assailant, of course, because there's a bunch of them. It's chaotic, there's panic. But we all know who they were. They were all, everybody that was in his little dormitory with him. He is the only black man there. You might as well put the whole military at fault for this. Put the whole country at fault for this. This man wanted to fight for America. This man believed in American ideals, and he got beaten severely, ears slit. He got tortured by his fellow military officers. Let's continue. He says that he cannot identify his assailants. The other cadets claim that he did it to himself. The man just went and viciously beat up himself. He cut his ears. You know what I'm saying? He gagged himself and bound himself, which is one of the hardest things to do. It's very hard to bind yourself. A lot of people would say it's impossible. Not many people can bind themselves. They can bind their feet, but binding their hands is a skill not many people have. He gagged, bound himself, beating himself, cut his ears. And they saying he did it to himself. He did that to himself. See, our enemy is a vicious man. Our enemy is a very violent man. And he does have one thing that trumps his violence, which is his image. He wants to look good in a public eye as he does the things he do to you. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to get, hold on, I'm going to bring up a scripture real quick. Let's bring up Zechariah 11:5. Oh, that joint never got typed in. Hold on. It's one of the last books in the Bible. All right. You want to type it in right now. It's one of the last books. It should be easy to find. You know what I'm saying? It should be very easy to find. We're going to get with it. I've got it up on the screen so y'all can see it. Bear with me one sec, y'all. All right, hopefully you're there with me. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5. Whose possessors slay them. We see one of the things is that us as Black, Hispanic, and Native people, we are beguiled right now to believe that we are currently not in the possession of our enemies. A lot of us are in the illusion that we are actually free. We actually believe that we are free people when there's nothing free about us. We are still possessed by our enemies. Our last names prove that we are possessed by them. We are Black people with the last name, Jacob, you know what I'm saying, Butler, Greens, Murchisons, you know what I'm saying? None of these names are names that our ancestors had. These are names that was given to us from our enemy. And seeing how these names were given to us from our enemy, that should show you right there that we are possessed by them. And our slayers, our possessors slay us. Let's read that again. Zechariah 11, verse 5. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. They don't hold themselves guilty. Those men at that cadet center don't hold themselves guilty. They said he did it to himself. Just like they say with that sister, Michaela Miller, that was found hung in the woods in Hopkinton, Mass. They say that she did it to herself. They say that she slain herself, hung herself with a belt after she was jumped by various white people the day before, the same day, or something like that. We're going to get into her story too. But they hold themselves not guilty, no matter what you do. They held themselves not guilty with Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, you know what I'm saying? They hold themselves not guilty to a lot of vile acts that they have done to us. And they would try to put the blame on us as much as possible. As much as possible. Especially nowadays. They try to, first the news would put the brother's picture up. They put the brother's picture up and they try to give him the most villainous picture they could find. They'll try to find the most villainous picture they could find and post it worldwide. When the brother was probably an AB student, no complaints, no nothing, but they'll find that one picture with him probably smoking weed, probably posing with mad money, got a gun, You know what I'm saying? Womanizing, whatever. They're going to try to find a picture to make the brother look bad because that's what they do. They hold themselves not guilty, which is a very disgusting thing. You know what I'm saying? But let's get back into that news article. No, let's get to the next one. Let's get to the next one. The next one's in the Chicago Tribune, November 22nd, 85? Madisonville, Texas, November 21st. News has been received here of the lynching of a Negro in this part of Madison County on Tuesday night. See, what you got to understand, the newspaper was the Facebook back then. It was the TikTok. They didn't do these things in secret. No, they made public spectacles of our death back then, just like they make public spectacles of our deaths today. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. All that marching and begging that the civil rights movement did has changed nothing. And cats are scared to separate nowadays because they think the same thing that happened then is going to happen now, which it already is. So what you scared for? You might as well join together and get killed than be joined to our enemies and get killed. Because that's what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But let's get with it. He was accused of riding his horse over a little white girl and injuring her on Wednesday. Okay, so he ran over. Let's say if it's true, because we know there's a good chance it's not true. He ran over a little white girl with a horse. Usually that would, detail a murder. That wouldn't be an injury. That'd be a loss of life. Because if a horse runs over you, it usually would trample you. I mean, horses are heavy animals. You know what I'm saying? But let's say he did. Does it warrant him losing his life because she got injured? Does it warrant him losing his life? Now, you need to ask yourself that. Think of an answer. Think on it on both sides. Imagine if a white man ran over your daughter with a car. Does he deserve to lose his life? And if you come up with two separate answers, as in, it was not, as in, you will defend your daughter, but it's not all right for them to defend theirs, there's an issue. You are fogged with something. It is all right for them to defend that little girl if it happened. But we know us as black people, we ain't going to react off of hearsay. For us to react, we got to see it. You know what I'm saying? And we tend to not understand that racism comes with a certain amount of love. Racism comes with love for your own people. That's what we don't seem to understand as a people. Now, if you love your people enough, of course, you're going to have racial issues. If you love your people enough. If you don't, well, you just love everybody, which is basically equated to not loving anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's not equated to loving anybody at all. But let's continue with that. On Wednesday, hold on. Injuring her. On Wednesday, it was discovered that the wrong Negro had been gotten hold of. Salakia. Let me read that again. On Wednesday, it was discovered that the wrong Negro had been gotten hold of by the mob. The guilty one made his escape. You see? You see? So our enemy, they're gonna hold themselves not guilty, of course. They just killed the innocent man. They just lynched the innocent black man because they believe he ran over a little white girl. Imagine if we reacted like that for our children. Imagine that. I mean, that's an incredible amount of love for that little white girl, that you will murder the wrong guy, that you will lynch the wrong man. You just be like, oh man, the other one got away, but man, believe me, I'm pretty sure they went on the lookout for him too. Pretty sure they did. Pretty sure they did. Our enemy is a vicious, 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 vicious man. You know what I'm saying? He's a very vicious man. He's very ugly with it. He don't care about nothing. Nothing at all. I'm gonna make this bigger. You know what I'm saying? He don't care about nobody but his own, which he should. He truly, truly should. You know what I'm saying? He shouldn't care about nobody but his own people. That's the way it's supposed to be. Problem is, we're not following that ourselves. We love everybody. We're the only nation on the planet that loves everybody. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue with another example of these lynchings that they have done. This one's written by a paper from my hometown, Springfield, Massachusetts. It's an editorial. So that means this is personal opinion involved. And written in January 19th, 1896, right? And it said, white superiority in Florida. The noble and valiant. Listen to the way he describes the white people. This is incredible. The noble and valiant Anglo-Saxons of Manatee County, Florida, are engaged just now in demonstrating the superiority of the race. He is proud of these noble, valiant Anglo-Saxons who are defending and standing up and showing the superiority of their people. He should be happy about seeing that. No different from when we see Mike Tyson beat up on a white guy. Same thing. You know what I'm saying? But their way of showing it is very violent. It causes the loss of life. That's the difference. But let's continue. Okay. Some days ago, the son of the county sheriff and the son of a poor Negro quarreled, and the black was the victor. The black didn't get no glorious, noble, valiant. He didn't get no. He was like the black dude won the fight. The son of a sheriff fights this poor black kid, and he loses. He lost the fight. But let's continue. In Bova, in a Bova fight, thereupon the sheriff and a number of brave. Hold on, I don't think no, it says boys fight, not boat. The Y was cut off. Let me read that again. And the black was the victor in a boys fight. Thereupon the sheriff and a number of. Hold on. It seems like a good piece is cut off from this. Hold on, but I got the book. I got the actual book. Let me get to reading this. So y'all won't scared. It looked like a good piece was cut out. Okay, and a number of brave whites, fully armed, went number of brave whites, fully armed, went to the Negro's cabin at night. Ooh, Salakias. Went to the Negro's cabin at night and demanded that the boy be handed over to them. So they coming through, right? They coming through. Their people's lost the fight. They mad. They upset. So they coming through. And they want blood to be spilled. Because they were out there showing all types of superiority. And you got this little black boy beating up this little white boy on a one-on-one fight. It's an issue. They're a bunch of sore losers. They can't handle it. They can't handle that they're not superior to us. They know they're not. So what they do, they try to murder us. They know they're not superior than us physically. We've been dominating the boxing ring since we've been allowed to go in it. Since we've been allowed to go in the boxing ring, we've been dominating it. We've been dominating every sport that we integrated. So they know physically they're not superior. They know they're not superior intellectually too. They just know how to work together. But let's continue. Knowing what would be his probable fate, the Negro refused to surrender his son. My man was a G. He said he ain't giving up his son. He knows what's about to happen. He knows things about to go down. He's ready for things to go down. But let's continue. On the contrary, he seized the gun. See, you know that this mob had guns. He got to defend his home. He's going to defend his son, which is the nature and natural use of a black man. So all you black women that want to dismiss black men, this is what we are good at. This is what we do. We defend our household. That's what we do. And when the white mob fired upon the house, he returned the fire and killed the sheriff. Then the whites, in a rage, picked up a log and rushed upon the cabin door to batter it in. And another shot from the Negro's gun killed another white man. So that's 2 down. And fatally wounded a third. That's 3 down. The mob retreated for reinforcements. They were out. They were out. But you know, with them, it's never over. It's never over. That's why if it ever gets to that point, they all got to go. They all got to go. Because you leave one, he's going to go find more or create more and continue the war. So they all got to go. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. The mob retreated for reinforcements, and the Negro took his boy and gun and made off for the swamps. They were out. He had to save his son. I understand. Because you know they're coming back. At last accounts, he had not been captured and tortured to death. So this article wants him to get tortured to death. He speculated. He knows they weren't caught, but he's speculating they would torture him. It's like he wants it, because this is an editorial. And believe me, Massachusetts is a very racist state. It's a very racist state. And this editorial just sounds like it's just full of it. My man said he wasn't captured and tortured, like that was the goal. But let's continue. But in lieu of this, the noble and manly whites, they are noble and manly. Noble and manly. They couldn't take a loss, but they're considered to be manly. You know why? Because they're defending their race. But let's continue. The noble and manly whites were going about the country, firing into cabins of innocent and defenseless blacks, burning up the homes of some, Salakia, burning up the homes of some, killing others, and ordering a general exodus of Negroes. So they burnt down homes. They killed brothers and sisters. They ordered the survivors to get out, leave. Leave everything you own, leave your property, just leave, get out. Leave everything you know and love, just go. You know what I'm saying? Threatening a boycott on employers of labor who would not discharge their Negro help. So they threatened to boycott stores that had Negro employees. And it's funny the way he said it, Negro helps, because the fact is, Blacks, Hispanic, and Natives that are employees are still slaves. That's the bottom line. We're slaves. We're help. We're the help. That's what we are. And they were going to boycott those stores, which is a good weapon. They wasn't going to harm that white man. They were just going to boycott his store, which will make him, because he wants his money. He wants his clientele. That black man is fired. And not just fired, he's kicked out of the city. And that's what we're dealing with as a people. That's what we're dealing with as a people. We're dealing with an ugly group of people here, man. We're dealing with a vile, disgusting group of people here. You know what I'm saying? These cats literally went back and got more. More. The black kid beat up the white kid. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. What's the problem? Kids fight all the time. You win some, you lose some. But they wanted that boy's blood. He's supposed to take those punches from that white kid. He's supposed to lay down and submit. But he was a lion. And he won that fight. But they wanted his life after winning that fight. You know what I'm saying? Let's go into another scripture. Let's go to Lamentations 4:18. Let me write it up in here. Let's get with it. All right. Actually, let's start with 17. Let's start with 17 because this is something that we got to understand. All right. So if you're there, I'm going to start reading. Lamentations chapter 4, verse 17. As for us, our eyes yet failed for our vain help. See, our eyes, we're looking. Us black, Hispanic, and natives, we are looking for help. Know how we're looking for help? We're looking for help because we are fighting for the right to vote. Because we believe that voting is going to help us get the help that we need as black, Hispanic, and native people. We believe that we can vote for somebody that has the heart and the good intentions to help black, Hispanic, and native people. I mean, that person hasn't showed up yet, but we believe that person will come one day. Let me tell you something. That person's not going to come. That person is not going to come. Black, Hispanic, and native people should not be voting at all. Voting has not helped us at all. It has not served any purpose for us at all. Black, Hispanic, and native people should not vote. Period. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue. In our watching, we have watched for a nation that could not save us. And we asking of people. We are on the streets marching, begging for their love, for their mercy, for their help. We are begging them, and they have no intent on saving us. They have no plans on saving us. We want their help. We want their love. We want their admiration. We want their respect. And all they do is shoot us in the back, unarmed. You know what I'm saying? Shoot you while your kids and your woman's in the car, like they did for Landro Castile. Hop out the car and shoot your 12-year-old like they did to Tamir Rice. You know what I'm saying? As you are coming home from buying, you know what I'm saying, some Arizonas and some Skittles, you know what I'm saying, you're getting shot down. They hate us. We are begging them for their love and mercy. But let me tell you what the Bible says. Verse 18, they hunt our steps. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They are literally hunting our steps. That's why you can't go get those Arizona and that Skittles. That's why your little kid can't play outside with a toy gun. That's why you can't sell Lucy's outside of a store. That's why you can't jog in a neighborhood that you don't live in, like they did Ahmaud Arbery. And all those are what you consider modern day lynchings. Look, my man's knee was around George Floyd's neck. My man's knee was on his neck. You know what that means? They switched out the lasso, the noose. They switched out the noose for the knee. They switched out the noose for the chokehold. They switched out the noose for a bullet. All this is modern day lynchings. And there are literal modern day lynchings too. We're going to get into that a little later too. But there's literal modern day lynchings too. You know what I'm saying? But let's get, excuse me. Let's get with it a little more. Now this one, there's two accounts of this one story. I'm going to read both, because one's a conservative account, one's a liberal account. It's two different newspaper on this one story, but it's interesting. Kissimmee Valley, Florida Gazette, April 28th, 1899. Sam Holt, aka Samuel Holt, if you want to Google him, burned at stake. Sam Holt, the Negro who is thought to have murdered Alfred Cranford and assailed Cranford's wife, was burned at the stake 1 mile and a quarter from Noonan, Georgia, Sunday afternoon, July 23rd at 2:30 o'clock. Fully 2,000 people surrounded the small sapling to which he was fastened and watched the flames eat him away. Wow. Wow. That's what you call going viral today. 2,000 people. I told you, they wasn't ashamed for their treatment of us. Now they're ashamed, so now they want to do it in secret. They got a bloodlust for us. Their bloodlust, it won't get satisfied. They won't get quenched at all. But they have a literal bloodlust for us. 2,000 people sat and watched this man get tied to a small little tree and burned alive. But let's continue. 2,000 people surrounded the small sapling to which he was fastened and watched the flames eat away his flesh, saw his body mutilated by knives and witnessed the contortion of his body in his extreme agony. So they watched it fully. That is incredible detail. Mutilated by knives. So as they cut the brother up. They cut the brother up. That is a hard read right there. And they watched as the body and witnessed the contortions of his body as it extreme agony. My man was twitching. My man, he's trying to outdance that flame. He couldn't get nowhere because he's tied. He's bound to this tree. And he's just burning. They're literally cooking him. You know what I'm saying? This is the type of people that we deal with. These are the type of people that you believe is your allies. These are the type of people that you believe could represent you and your people's needs and desires. That's why you vote for Biden. You believe these people actually have your best interests in mind. When 2,000 of them were able to watch that happen. And they weren't like watching and like shocking. Oh, no, they were entertained. They were satisfied. They were enjoying what was happening. And you think those 2,000 was just all adults? I'm pretty sure there was kids there too. I'm pretty sure there was kids there too. But let's continue. 2 counties, Campbell and Coweta, directly interested in the crimes of the Negro. And the entire state have waited with impatience for the moment. So the entire state was interested. All of Florida was interested in watching this man burn for killing a white guy and a white woman, allegedly, who is thought to have. That's what it said at the beginning. It's thought to have. So this is past tense. They believed he did it. You know what I'm saying? But let's go down a little further. They waited with impatience for the moment when the Negro would pay the penalty for his fiendish deeds. Such suffering has seldom been witnessed. And through it all, the Negro uttered hardly a cry. Those who witnessed the affair saw the Negro meet his death and saw him tortured with flames and with unfeigned satisfaction. They enjoyed this. They enjoyed it. But I see another part is taped out. I understand this is a free PDF, so they gotta excerpt some parts for the free. You know what I'm saying? But I got this right here, so I'm going to read it for you. You know what I'm saying? With unfeigned satisfaction. Hold on, let me bring that back. Those who witnessed the affair saw the Negro meet his death and saw him tortured before the flames with unfeigned satisfaction. For sickening sights, harrowing details, and blood-curdling incidents, the burning of hope is unsurpassed by any occurrence of a like kind ever heard of in the history of Georgia. So this, okay, so the paper is Kissing Me Florida. So Florida was writing on this. So the state that wanted to see it was the state of Georgia. Yeah, Georgia. Ooh. But my man did not utter a word. He did not utter, he ain't screamed till that flame hit him. All that cutting and all that stuff, he didn't. No. We're going to get into it. The other one's more detailed. Hold A few smoldering ashes scattered about the place, a blackened stake, and all that was left to tell the story. Wow. So that's all that was left for him was a few smoldering ashes scattered about the place. His ashes were everywhere, right? A blackened stake, that little sapling that he was tied to, are all that was left. So the bones, okay, not even the bones of the Negro were left in peace, but were eagerly snatched by a crowd of people drawn from all directions, who almost fought over the burning body of the man. So, is this your king? Is this the people that you love and pray to so much? This man has been tortured and burnt to death, and they are almost fighting for his burnt up body pieces. They probably wanted to eat it. They probably want to eat up his charred up flesh, turn his bones into some type of jewelry. That's what they probably really wanted to do. I'm talking about you got a sick people here. You got to hold on. We're going to get into another scripture before we continue with this. We're going to get into another scripture. Hold on. Hebrews 12 and 16. We're going to go with Hebrews 12 and 16. That's on the screen right there. All right, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau. Like, let me tell you something. This man was tortured, tied to a stake, burnt alive, 2,000 people looking on with excitement and joy in their eyes. And then his body was ripped apart for souvenirs. That is a profane act. That is about as profane as it gets. Hold on. Let me even help y'all out. I'm about to get y'all the definition so y'all can understand what profane means. I understand everybody likes this Google definitions, but no, I'm going to the Merriam. Now let me pull it up for y'all to see. All right, profane. Definition 1. To treat something sacred with abuse, irreverence, or contempt. And believe me, us Black, Hispanic, and Native people are sacred people to the Most High. We are separated from everybody else. We are special unto Him. So when they do treat us with abuse, irreverence, contempt. Definition 2. To debase by a wrong, unworthy, or vulgar use. It is vulgar to rip a man's body apart after he's been burnt alive and use it as a souvenir. It's probably an heirloom in one of these people's basements right now. They probably got his foot or something, got his arm or finger. They got something of his that they have as a family heirloom. Probably on one of their Georgia family mansion's mantle, right above the chimney. Got this burnt up black arm right above the chimney. They are profane, man. But let's say profane as an adjective. Not concerned with religion or religious purposes, not holy because unconsecrated, impure, or defiled, serving or debased or defiled what is holy, and we are holy. Obscene, vulgar, not being among the initiated, not possessing esoteric or expert knowledge. And we are all that. We are literally, he is all that. Nobody's more profane than Esau. Esau, if you don't know, is the Caucasian people. Biblically, Esau are the Caucasian race, and nobody's more profane than him. We just read that horrific story, and we're gonna get more into it because I want to read the other account because the other account's in more detail. You know what I'm saying? But let's get back into it, right? In all direction. Okay, let me read that back again. Not even the bones of the Negro were left in peace, but were eagerly snatched by a crowd of people drawn from all directions, who almost fought over the burning body of the man, carving it with their knives and seeking souvenirs of the occurrence. That is vile. Holt went to the stake with as much courage as anyone could possibly have possessed. On such occasion, and the only murmur that issued from his lips was when angry knives plunged into his flesh, and his life's blood sizzled in the fire before his eyes. Then he cried, "Oh my God, oh Jesus." Christianity had a hold on our people, man. I tell you that right now. The crowd that burned Holt believed it had made no mistake of his guilt or identity. After the first flames licked at his feet, he was temporarily removed from the sapling, at which time he is said to have admitted his guilt. Of course, you could torture a man to admit anything. As long as he believes that that torture and that pain will stop, he will say anything. He will admit to anything at that moment. The flame looked at his feet, he would say anything. You know what I'm saying? But they wanted to hold themselves not guilty, so they wanted him to admit it. One of the strangest features of the entire affair is the part played in the execution by a northern man. This man, whose name would not be divulged by those who knew him, announced that he was from the north. He made it clear that he was from the north, while he calmly saturated Holt's clothing with kerosene oil. Miss Cranford, the rape victim, was not permitted to identify the Negro. So the victim didn't even make a positive ID. She didn't even make a positive ID. All right, he killed the husband, raped her, but she's not allowed to make a positive ID. So who identified? We're going to get into it. Watch. She is ill, and it was thought the shock would be too great for her. They love their white women. They don't want their white women going through any trauma. Nowadays, if you're raped, you have to face your accuser. Ain't that what they say? I mean, you gotta point him out and everything. But back then, now, you said he did it. He did it. He going down. The crowd was satisfied with the identification of Holt by Miss Cranford's mother, who did not, however, actually see Holt commit the crime. So she's a horrible witness. She ain't even see the crime get done. How does she know who did it? Masks played no part of the lynching, so they were out open and proud of it. They made their identity known. There was no secrecy, no effort to prevent anyone seeing who lit the fire, who cut off the ears, who took the head. On the trunk of a tree nearby was pinned the following place card: "We must protect our Southern women." I tell you, they love their woman, man. They love their women, and they should. We just gotta love our women more. We gotta love our women to stay away from their woman, because when a white woman cries, a black man dies. That's what we gotta understand. And the sooner we understand that when a white woman cries, a black man dies, we are more likely to survive, because we will stay away from them. We will stay far away from them. We'll see a warning sign. You know what I'm saying? We will see a warning sign, and we will stay far away from them. We won't have no relationship with them. Whatever attack they would do to us will be blatant, because we have no dealings with them. So it'll be blatant why they doing it. You know what I'm saying? But let's continue with it. This is another article on the account, right? This is the same joint though. This is the same story, but just different newspaper. Springfield, Massachusetts Weekly Republican, April 28th, 1899. Negro burned alive in Florida. Second Negro then hanged. Wow, second Negro then hanged. So now we know why I said it was thought. You know what I'm saying? In Newman, Georgia, April 23rd. Sam Holt, the murderer of Alfred Cranford and the ravisher of the latter's wife, was burned at the stake near Newnan, Georgia. This afternoon, in the presence of 2,000 people. The black man was burned. Salakia. Let me bring that back up a bit. The black man was first tortured before being covered with oil and burned. An ex-governor of Georgia made a personal appeal to his town people to let the law take its course without being the slightest avail. Like, what is that called? That's a legal term to describe this. What is it called? It's called interfering. No, something like interfering on justice, or you know what I'm saying? Interfering with justice. You know what I'm saying? Interfering with a justice proceeding. That is literally illegal. So all those 2,000 people should have been arrested because they interfered with the justice proceedings. But did that dude do it? No, he did not. But let's continue. Before the torch was applied to the pyre, the Negro was deprived of his ears. They cut off the brother's ears, cut off the brother's fingers, cut off the brother's genitalia, parts of his body. Why? That shows you that our oppressor has a natural homosexual instinct in him. He's natural LGBT, because you got to grab it to cut it off. And I'm not grabbing that. There's nothing that can convince me to grab it. And then you're going to cut it off for what? What are you cutting it off for? What are you going to do with it? Knowing then they probably cooked it up and made a soup out of it. They're sick people, man. They sick people, and these are the people that you want as your allies. Another scripture, man. Let's get with it. That is a profane thing to do. My man cut off. That is sick. We're going to go to the curses real quick. All right, we're going to go to Deuteronomy 28:50. A nation of fierce countenance. Oh, maybe I should go up. Nah. But a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not look. That's a very fierce and evil thing to do. They are a nation of fierce countenance because they are easily triggered. And when they are, the whole world got to burn. The whole world got to burn for what happened to them. Let's say if the man did kill that man and rape the dude's wife, yes, he deserves to be punished. That's if he did it. But do you have to do that torturing? Do you have to do all that extra stuff? Is all that extra stuff necessary? That is profane. That is disgusting. But let's continue. Which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. They don't care who you are. They don't care if you're young. They don't care if you're old. They don't care if you're a woman. They don't care if you're a man. They don't care if you're light skinned. They don't care if you're dark skinned. They don't even care if you're innocent. They don't care if you're guilty. They just want to cut off a black man's penis. That's all they want to do. They're a nation of fierce countenance, man. You know what I'm saying? But let's get back into that news article. My bad. Let's get back into it. Where was it at? Okay. He pleaded pitifully for his life while the mutilation was going on. See, this is a whole different account. The one account said he ain't uttered a word till the knives came in and the flames started. Oh, okay, I see. Maybe it is saying the same thing. He pleaded for his life while the mutilation was going on. Of course, man. You stabbing him up, you cut off his rod, man. What you expect him to do? He pleaded pitifully for his life while the mutilation was going on, but stood the ordeal over the fire with surprising fortitude. Before the body was cool, it was cut to pieces. The bones was crushed into small bits, and even the tree upon which the wretch met his fate was torn up and disposed of as souvenirs. So even the wood afterwards was broken to pieces and given out as souvenirs. I wonder if they made money off of it. That's what I'm wondering. Did they make money off of it? But these people are sick. The Negro's heart was cut into several pieces, as was also his liver. Those unable to obtain the ghastly relics direct paid their more fortunate possessors extravagant sums for them. It became, my man's body became a currency. It became, it's sad. It's sad. extravagant sums for them. Small pieces of bone went for 25 cents, and a bit of the liver, crisply cooked, sold for 10 cents. Crisply cooked. They use cook because I'm pretty sure they ate that liver. They ate that man's liver, man. As soon as the Negro was seen to be dead, there was a tremendous struggle among the crowd which had witnessed his tragic end. To secure the body to secure the souvenirs, a rush was made for the stake, and those near the body were forced against it and had to fight for their freedom. Knives were quickly produced as soon the body was dismembered. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. One of the men who lifted the can of kerosene to the Negro's head, that's that northern dude, is said to be a native of Pennsylvania. His name is known to those who were with him, but they refused to divulge it. The mob was composed of citizens of Noonan, Griffin, Palmetto, and other little towns in the country round about Noonan. Of all the farmers who had received word. Hold on. I forgot they do this. Hold on. And all the farmers who have received word. Hold on, let me get to where I'm at. Who have received word that the burning was to take place. Y.W. Atkinson, a former governor of Georgia, met the mob as he was returning from church, and he appealed to them to let the law take its course. In addressing the mob, he used these words: "Some of you are known to me, and when this affair is finally settled in the courts, you may depend upon it that I will testify against you." A member of the mob was seen to draw a revolver and level it at Mr. Atkinson, but his arm was seized and the pistol taken from him. The mob was frantic with delays and would hear to nothing but burning at the stake. Wow. Hold on, let's get into it a little more. Before being put to death, the Negro is said to have confessed to killing Cranford, stating that he had been paid $20 by Lead Strickland, a Negro preacher at Palmetto, for the deed. Holt was located in the little cabin of his mother on the farm of the Jones brothers between Macon and Columbus and brought to jail. Word was sent to Miss Cranford at Palmetto that it was believed Holford was under arrest and that her presence was necessary in Noonan to make sure of his identification. In some way, the news of the arrest leaked out, and as the town has been on the alert for nearly 2 weeks, the intelligence spread rapidly. From every house in the little city came its occupants of a good-sized crowd had soon gathered about the jail. Sheriff Brown was importuned to give up the prisoner, and finally, in order to avoid an assault on the jail and possible bloodshed, he turned the Negro over to the waiting crowd. A procession was quickly formed, and the doomed Negro was marched at the head of a yelling, shouting crowd through several streets of the town. Soon the public square was reached. Here, ex-Governor Atkinson of Georgia, who lives in Noonan, came hurriedly upon the scene and standing up in a buggy importuned the crowd to let the law take its course. Governor Atkinson said, "My fellow citizens and friends, I beseech you to let the affairs go no further. You are hurrying this Negro on to death without an identification. Miss Cranford, whom he is said to have assaulted and whose husband he is said to have killed, is sick in bed and unable to hear to say whether this is her assailant." They ain't playing. Hold on. Hold on. Let me continue it. Is unable to be here to say whether this is her assailant. Let this Negro be returned to jail. The law will take its course, and I promise you I will do so quickly and effectually. Do not stain the honor of the state with a crime such as you are about to perform. Judge A.D. Freeman of Noonan spoke in a similar strain and prayed the mob to return the prisoner to the custody of the sheriff and go home. The assemblage heard the words of the two speakers in silence, but the instant their voices had died away, shouts of "On to Palmetto, burn him, think of his crime" arose, and the march was resumed. Miss Cranford's mother and sister are residents of Noonan. The mob was headed in the direction of their house, and in a short time reached the McElroy home. And the Negro was marched. Oh, sorry, I'm all reading from the book. In Miss McElroy's yard. Hold on. Let me bring it back up. The Negro was marched through the gate of Miss McElroy, was called to the front door. She identified the African, and her verdict was agreed to by her daughter, who had often seen Holt on the Cranford place. To the stake was again the cry, and several men wanted to burn the Negro in Miss McElroy's yard. To this she objected strenuously, and the mob, complying with her wish, started for Palmetto. Just as they were leaving Noonan, news was brought that the 1 o'clock train was from Atlanta, would bring 1,000 people from Atlanta. This was taken to be a regiment of soldiers, and the mob decided to burn the prisoner at the first favorable place rather than be compelled to shoot him when the militia put in an appearance. So they'd rather string him up, torture him, and do all that than where they were stood than be confronted by the military. And if they did, they would shoot him in the head directly. Leaving the town, whose Sunday quiet had been so rudely disturbed, the mob, which now numbered nearly 15,000 people, started on the road to Palmetto. A line of buggies and vehicles of all kinds, their drivers fighting for position in line, followed the procession, at the head of which, closely guarded, marched the Negro 1.5 miles out of Noonan, a place believed to be favorable to the burning, was reached. A little to the side of the road was a strong pine tree. Up to this, the Negro was marched, his back placed to the tree and his face to the crowd, which jostled closely about him. The clothes were torn from the Negro in an instant. A heavy chain was produced and wound around his body. He said not a word to the proceeding, but I can't. This this is very, very, very painful. Let's get to the part where they finally go to the trial. The Negro's life might have been ended then, but for the arrival of Madge Thomas, who leaped from his buggy and asked for a hearing. He asked the crowd to give the Negro a chance for his life and said, "Gentlemen, this Negro is innocent." Holt and Leach had promised to give him $20 to kill Alfred Cranford. And I don't believe Leach had 20 since since he had been on my place. He has never done any of you any harm. I want you to promise me that you will turn him over to the bailiff of this town, that he may be given a hearing. I do not ask you to liberate him. Hold him for the courts. The mob replied that Strickland had inflamed the Negroes in the neighborhood and had a bad reputation, having run away from East Point several years ago. Madge Thomas reminded the mob that the Negro. Let's get to it. That the Negro minded that the mob that the Negro had voluntarily told of having seen Holt on the night of the murder. One of the mob replied that Strickland had done this in the cunningness of his guilt to establish his own innocence. There were some however, who agreed with Madge Thomas, and after a discussion, a vote was taken, which was supposed to mean life or death for Lee Strickland. The vote to let him live was unanimous. Madge Thomas then retired some distance, and the mob was preparing to send Strickland in a wagon to Noonan, when a member of the mob cried out, "We have got him here. Let's keep him." This aroused the mob, and a messenger was sent to advise Madge Thomas to leave Palmetto for his own good. But the old man was not frightened. He drew himself up and said emphatically, "I have never before been ordered to leave a town, and I am not going to leave this one." And then the major, uplifting his hand to give his words, Force said to the messenger, "Tell him the muscles in my legs are not trained to running. Tell them I have stood the fire and heard the whistle of minis from 1,000 Yankee rifles. I am not frightened by this crowd." Madge Thomas was not molested. Then, with the understanding that Lee Strickland was to be delivered to the jailer at Fairburn, Madge Thomas saw that the Negro had pleaded for led off to his death. The mob took the Negro to a grove near the home of Marshall Gibbons Palmetto, and again the noose was adjusted. He was hauled off the ground, but was let down to allow him to confess. He refused to do so, and the lynchers were about to haul him up again when the son of Marshall Gibbons came upon the scene and asked that the lynching should not occur near his father's home. The Negro was taken to the yard in the rear of Dr. W. S. Zeller's home and tied up to the persimmon tree and left hanging. A coroner's jury held an inquest over the body, Monday afternoon and returned the usual verdict death at the hands of parties unknown. They were known. Who has made him himself obnoxious by remarks concerning the treatment given the Negroes by the whites. There is not much prospect of his capture. However, as he has held a day's start of his pursuers. Slovakia. Atlanta, Georgia, April 24th. The Atlanta Constitution said this morning, skip down. Holt was forced to pay for his crime will arouse a flood of discussion carried on by those who know the facts in the near side and those who do not care for facts on the other. But while the form of this criminal punishment cannot be upheld, let those who are disposed to criticize it look into the facts. And by these facts, temper the judgment they may render. An unassuming, industrious, and hard-working farmer, after his day's toil, sat at his evening meal. Around him sat wife and children, happy in the presence of the man who was fulfilling to them every duty and loyal to him, every duty imposed by nature, at peace with the world, serving God and loyal to humanity. They looked forward to the coming day noiselessly. The murderer, with uplifted axe, advanced from the rear and sank it to the hilt in the brain of the unsuspecting victim, tearing the children from the mother's breast. Hold on. Am I in a whole different story? I think I'm in a whole different story now. Yeah, I'm pretty much in a whole nother story. I guess they cut off a title too. But let me read the last chapter of this. But they lost the opportunity. They lost the opportunity, and it is a deplorable fact that will scores of intelligent Negroes, leaders of their race, have talked to me about the Palmetto lynching. Not one of them have ever in the remotest way alluded to the diabolical crime of Holt, which provoked the lynching. I do not believe these men sympathize with Holt, but they can see but one side of the question and are blinded by race prejudice. See how they try to flip it? See how they try to flip it? They try to flip that. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an unjust people. But now let's look at what happens in Slovakia. Bear with me. Now let's see what happens in modern days terms. Let's look at another clipping. Let's okay. This is called Black Man's Death in Mississippi, Lynching or Suicide. All right, that's the brother right there. He's a young brother. brother was about as young as it gets. Tammy Townsend holds a collage of photos of her eldest son, Willie Jones Jr., 21, with family members as she speaks about the incident where he was found hanging in the tree of his girlfriend's Scott County yard 3 years ago. And there's a lesson to be taken from this, so let's read it. Scott County, Mississippi. This article is written by Leah Willingham. On the night of February 8th, 2018, Willie Andrew Jones Jr. and Alexis Rankin argued in the car on the way to her parents' home in Scott County, Mississippi. The couple were going through a rough patch in their relationship, but they had a 3-month-old child together. And the 21-year-old Jones wanted to reconcile. So Jones is trying to, fix things with his baby mama. They continued fighting when they arrived at the 19-year-old Rankin's home. So they had her home. She's 19, most likely still living with her folks, right? And her folks obviously know they're arguing. Where a group of her family members was staying. So a group of family members was there. Probably had cousins, uncles, and everything. At some point, Jones walked out, leaving Rankin inside. Not long afterward, Rankin's stepfather was calling 911 to say Jones was dead. The black man was found hanging from a tree in the yard of his white girlfriend's home. Wow. Wow. That's why the ISUPK teaches Black, Hispanic, and Native people interracial relationships is a sin according to God. If he wasn't in an interracial relationship, he'll be with a chick in the hood. He won't have been hung. That's why segregation is important. That's why separation is important. Because situation like this will be harder to occur. They will be harder and more difficult to happen. He went to her house, around her family, body found hung in their yard. But let's continue. The black man was found hanging from a tree in the yard of his white girlfriend's home, 50 feet from the house and about 5 feet from the roadway. The young man's feet were touching the ground and his knees were bent. His body was slumped under the young pecan tree. A blue and white cloth belt wrapped around his neck. A yellow nylon cord attached to the buckle was tied around the branch of the tree. The sheriff department ruled the hanging a suicide because they hold themselves not accountable. Jones family believed he was lynched. The case was touched a raw nerve in the state whose past is tainted by the frequent lynchings of Black people. See, it's still going on now. It's a frequent lynching of Black people. And at a time of national reckoning over how law enforcement interacts with African Americans and other minorities, Jones' family refuses to accept the sheriff's ruling and is asking that the case be reopened after prosecutors initially declined to move forward with charges. The family filed a wrongful death lawsuit alleging the Rankin stepfather, Harold O'Brien Jr., either killed Jones or failed to prevent Jones from killing himself. O'Brien never responded to the lawsuit, and in April, a Jackson area judge awarded relatives close to $11.4 million. According to the police report, O'Brien told an officer that Jones, he got a lawsuit for $11.4 million. If it's a suicide, why would I don't know. According to the police report, O'Brien told the officer that he was going to kill himself. Just before he walked out, O'Brien said then he saw Jones walk across the front yard with a rope in his hand, but he said he didn't take the threat seriously. Jones' mother, Tammy Townsend, said her son was never expressed suicidal thoughts to her. She said he had a sports injury that prevented him from being able to lift his arm above his head, so he had a torn rotator cuff. Same thing I got. Something she said would have made it physically impossible to hang himself, which is true because you got to tie things up and stuff, and that will burn. I mean, you could lift your hands up, but woo, that hurts. That brother did not kill himself. Believe that. But let's continue. O'Brien adamantly denies the allegations. Of course he does. Of course he does. But 11 mil, that's a big come up. That's a big come up. You know what I'm saying? But let's go to another article real quick to show you something. Let's go to something that's real close by. This is a updated story on that sister, Michaela Miller. You know what I'm saying? It's an updated story on Michaela Miller. The ex-girlfriend family speaks out on Michaela Miller's suicide investigation. Michaela Miller took a walk through the woods near her Hopkinton home late one night in this past April. Only 16 and heartbroken over a recent breakup with her high school sweetheart. She was alone and on some accounts growing more despondent by the day. The next day, Michaela's body was found along a trail, a belt around her throat. At some point earlier in the day, on the 17th, Michaela had encountered the girl she loved, along with 4 of her friends. So that's 5 people. So another thing, it's a white girl. That's an interracial relationship. I already explained how that's against God's law. And then it's a homosexual relationship, which is against God's laws. Let's get with it. All right. Before her friends in the clubhouse of her mother's apartment complex. Harsh words escalated into a physical confrontation. The Massachusetts chief examiner ruled the death a suicide last month, although the earlier altercation may or may not have played is still being probed by the Middlesex County prosecutor. Michaela's mother and local Black Lives Matter activists maintain the black lesbian teenager. See, they're going to keep on putting that out there as if that matters. But in this world, being a homosexual is way more important than being black. Was murdered in a modern day lynching. And they implicate the white mob the girl had encountered before her death. Look at that sister. That sister was young, only 16. Hung herself? That's crazy. Monica Cannon Grant, a BLM activist from Boston, And spokeswoman for Michaela's family has publicly blamed a group of white cop kids for killing Michaela, because the majority of those kids, their parents are cops. So things could get, you know, evidence could get lost easily. And also named the ex-girlfriend whose parents are not in law enforcement. Michaela's mother has claimed on social media her daughter was lured outside the night she died. Their protests caught the attention of politicians, including Rep. Ayanna Presley of the Squad, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and Governor Charlie Baker. Michaela Miller's death was a tragedy. She and all of our LGBTQ youth and youth of color, see, once again, they put the LBT youth, the alphabet youth in front of the youth of color, because LGBT is more important than being a person of color. Deserve to be safe. We owe her family peace in knowing that everything possible has been done to find answers, including a thorough and transparent investigation into the circumstances of her death, said a statement from Senator Warren. George Floyd family attorney Benjamin Crump announced this week that he was representing Michaela's family. District Attorney Marian Ryan has said mobile phone data, surveillance footage, and toll information shows the teens were nowhere near Michaela when she died. What you mean surveillance footage? You had them on surveillance when she died? Come on. She has rejected calls by Michaela's family to recuse herself. The family says she mishandled the investigation. None of the teens have been charged. Now, for the first time, Michaela's ex-girlfriend's family is speaking out, offering details to Newsweek about Michaela's alleged abusive home life and troubled state of mind in the days before her death. Once again, they hold themselves not guilty. They're going to push blame on somebody else. Megan Anderson, 41, says her teen daughter has been subjected to doxing, character assassination, and relentless harassment because of the false accusations floated by activists. She spoke to Newsweek on the condition of that her daughter's name and photo not be published for her protection. She's 16. If I don't say anything, she'd probably be in the hospital or dead by now, because of these people jumping on the bandwagon and really hurting her. Anderson said before the school year ended, the family withdrew their daughter from Hopkinton High School, where Michaela was also a student. Anderson confirmed that her daughter punched Michaela, a large-framed ex-basketball player, in self-defense after a routine teenage argument turned physical in the hours before Michaela's death. How'd she know that? Michaela was grabbing her by the neck of her sweatshirt and trying to corner her. Anderson says her daughter told her after the alleged confrontation, "My daughter is about 90 pounds. The two girls were described as best friends who dated on and off for over 2 years. Anderson, so they've been on and off before, so she should be used to this off thing. So why would she commit suicide if they've been on and off before?" I don't even want to hear no more from them. Screw them. I'm getting sick of these people. I am thoroughly getting sick of these people, man. Let's get into my last scripture real quick. I got one more scripture for y'all. Let's get with it. Ecclesiasticus. Did I spell that right? I think I did. Send the Apocrypha. If you don't got an Apocrypha, let me try to pull it up on screen. All right. Let me share that scripture just in case y'all don't have an Apocrypha. Y'all should get one. They're cheap. Go on Amazon. Or you can just download many apps that got it. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12, verse 16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips. Man, y'all can hear none. Y'all love these people. They tell y'all a whole bunch of BS. Y'all run with it. But in his heart, he imagineth to throw thee into a pit. That brother, he had a white woman. Michaela, she had a white woman. When a white woman cries, somebody black is going to die. They had y'all tied in with the sweet words that came from their lips, but deep down, only person that's going to get hurt is you. Only person that's going to get hurt is you. Leave them alone. He will weep with his eyes, but if he finds opportunity, he will weep with his eyes. They may seem like they sad about the situations or whatever, but if they find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. Man, they will not be satisfied with blood. They will not be satisfied with blood because it's not in their nature to be satisfied with blood. They want complete destruction. They want us eradicated. They want us shamed. They want us belittled. They want us emasculated. Sometimes blood just isn't enough. They want our culture. They want our name. They want our title. They want us gone, never to exist. And I'm going to end the class with that scripture. And with that, Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shah Barak Thug to my brothers, Yahweh Shema Thug Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shah to my sisters. And don't forget to pay your tithes, man. Pay your tithes. 10% of all your increase, all your earnings go to the men of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Maishra in the Hebrew, 10%. Give it to the men of the ISUPK, because what we do is we feed, clothe, shelter, educate Black, Hispanics, and Native people. Your Christian church doesn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to be a trooper in the school, man, you know, getting all black, black shoes, black pants, black shirt, you know what I'm saying? Get in all black. And don't forget, we got the Passover coming up. Get right. The Passover's coming real soon. You know what I'm saying? And with that, I'm going to end the class. So with that, shalom.